Hello, hello. Joyce is here and she says, I wonder what Alice has up her sleeve today. That's perfect. I'm keeping you on your toes. So fun. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. We are here for another session of Happy at Home, and these are like creative explorations. And Vicky is here saying hi from 72 degrees sunny New Orleans area. Well, it's not quite that warm here. It was on the weekend, but now it is not. We're like breaking into the 40s. So, welcome. My name is Alice Bowl, and I run the membership group at scraphappy.org. And these sessions, these happy at home sessions, are really an exploration of creativity and fun and getting a chance to play with some of the fun things that we buy, we don't always use, and just kind of going from there and seeing what other kinds of things might be fun and make our creative journey just a little bit better, right? So welcome. This is so, for me, this is like a great chance to kind of explore. So one of the things that we did on Friday was we made a fabulous card. It's called a Push Me Pull Me card using the mechanism. And when you pull down, not only does the piece pull down, but a little piece sneaks itself up there, right? As a little secret surprise. So I think these cards are super, super fun. And I have made several over the years. I had a little glitch on Friday and I was like, oh my gosh. But we got it working. And here's some examples of a couple other ones. So if you missed Friday's session with the Push Me Pull Me card, so fun, right? Check that one out. And it was really cool because we used this embossed flower from one of our earlier sessions. Yay, welcome. So glad that you're joining me. Now, I have to show you something else before we dive into our topic for today. And that is a paper that I made during a live session with my Scrap Happy sisters on a Friday. So our Scrap Happy family does hangouts called Scrap Happy Together. It's just for our members. We do 2 of them every month. And it's just a chance for us to hang out, chat, relax, scrapbook, and just kind of recreate that feeling of hanging with your friends, maybe at a crop. If you've never experienced that before, you get to experience it for the first time. And if it's something that you really miss, this is like the very informal feel of these sessions has really been a great way for us to connect. But of course, we get to play at the same time. And because I've been so inspired by stencils, we've seen them a few times this month, I played with a stencil on a Friday, and I played with my Concord and Ninth ink pads, which I am quite in love with, but I have to show you what I made. It is this beautiful background paper for a layout, and this one is like, it's so colorful and bright. I laid the stencil down and then I just inked over top with my colors, kind of creating a little bit of a rainbow pattern. Gail says, those are such cute cards. Thanks for sharing. You're so welcome. So yeah, the rainbow, it turned out so well. And I think it's just so beautiful. And I think it's going to be so fun for possibly a birthday page when I'm thinking about numbers, or just looking at numbers from a different scope, like looking at my life through numbers. That would be another good story. I don't exactly know yet. I love to make backgrounds that will have a good purpose and kind of have them in my stash until just the right idea comes along. Okay, today, I know you're excited. Today, what are we going to talk about? I wanted to take you for a stroll through one of my albums. So if you've been around me for a while, you probably heard me say that my very favorite place in the world is Hawaii. I love it there. I love it. I don't live there. I live in Alberta, Canada, where we have winter and snow, but I could really see myself living a Hawaiian lifestyle. I just love everything about it. I think that The weather is amazing. Going into the ocean, swimming in the ocean, snorkeling. I haven't done scuba diving in Hawaii yet, which is unreal because scuba diving is amazing. But I wanted to kind of give you a peek at what that kind of passion looks like over time. And I just recently, yay, put away a whole bunch of layouts, which means that I have multiple trips of Hawaiian holidays in one album right now. Now, I'm sure there's some of my trips that are missing. I know there are some that are missing. They're not all in here, but I think you'll get a good idea of what I like about it. And I have done a few fun things and used products that people struggle with to use. So we're going to take a little Hawaiian adventure, a little luau. I should have worn my flower lei. What was I thinking? I should have worn my flower lei so that we could go on this Hawaiian adventure today. Oh my gosh, even the Hawaiian language, so beautiful. I love the words. I love learning what they say. Connie says my sister lives on the island of Kauai. I would love to be her next door neighbor, Connie. Like so much. So much. But it's not in the cards yet. I'm not ruling it out. It's not in the cards yet, but I'm not ruling it out. Okay. Does this open? Here, I have to move this pile because I've got stacks of stuff. So many fun things. And this book is not going to open until I move that. There we go. So let's take you for a trip. Now, we're going to go way back. We're going to go way, way back for the first part. But I have to show you this because I did some super fun things right in the early days. Now, are they beautiful by today's standards? Not so much. Not so much. Archer Girl says, yay, a trip to Hawaii today. I know. I'm so dreaming of it right now that this feels like the right thing to do. The pages the first ones we look at may not be beautiful by today's standards because today we have different supplies. We have different stuff. And I think it's totally okay to say, this is the products that we had then. And now we have different products. I have to move this pile. I keep my nice little stack of my kits available, but they're getting in the way of me opening my book. There we go. This is better. I'm just seeing it on the camera now, finally. There. That's going to be better. Very good. Okay, so you want to see? Let's take a peek and we'll talk about the different ways that you can incorporate a little bit of fun. If you have great ideas that you've done on different travel pages, please tell me. I have some other ones. I actually don't even know what I have for maps and stuff in here. I have more map ideas, but I've done that. I like European travel. I have those books too. So if we run out of this, I'll pull out some of my other travel stuff and we'll just take a little holiday. We may travel around the world. Okay, let's bring up. Yes, okay, that worked. That worked. Okay, let's turn that a little bit so that we can see the book better, especially once the pages are all opened. Get that stuff out of the way. Okay, so this is taking you back all the way to 1999. This is the first time I went to Hawaii. I had the best time ever. And it's honestly why I fell in love with Hawaii. You know, the amazing sunsets, the beautiful beaches, spending time just with my husband. Now, when we did this trip, my son was 10 months old. And so I was sure that I was going to miss him so much, but once that door to the airplane opened up, I didn't. That sounds terrible, but I didn't. Oh, and I have sticky notes because I've marked different things. So let's have a look at this page right here. I have to pull it out because I didn't design this back then when I have different products that I would use now. But I designed this one because there's no way you can get a way beautiful picture in the same way you can from a postcard, right? The postcards are just amazing what you can get with those. So I have found that I like to incorporate postcards in when you just can't get that picture. you know, maybe they have special lighting, maybe they're in a helicopter, maybe they have just different options for making that lighting look so much better, or the photo looks so much better, and you can't necessarily take that, but you want to include that perspective. Is that better? A little bit of a glare. Okay. But what I've done is I've added extra flip outs, and I've included a lot of memorabilia into this page. So I've got the different pamphlets from the places that we went, right? So going to the place, the Polynesian Cultural Center with the luau, more of the flip outs, more of the postcards. So anytime that they had information on them that wasn't applicable to what, you know, maybe it was the advertising in it, I covered those advertisements up with other things that I found more interesting from our trip as a way to kind of fit more of our story into the book. And here you can see decorative edge scissors. I know, they were a thing. They were a thing. I used them, but we went to Cheeseburger in Paradise. We went to the different places. We did parasailing. So I was able to include like a lot of the different places. I've got a little bit of my boarding pass trying to hold this together instead of just like washi tape, which didn't even, you know, wasn't a thing then. I used little pieces of my flight boarding passes just to kind of keep all of those elements. And you can see even this postcard, I've added it. I've got tickets from the show that we went to and different pieces in here, just some of the fun stuff, right? And I think that, you know, and of course this side is actually our pictures. So that is the big banyan tree. And I thought I was under, oh, I am literally standing underneath it right here. You can hardly see me. I'd probably put an arrow on it right now. But then we zoom it out and you can see I'm still standing in the same spot. So that is kind of a fun page. And would I make the page look exactly like this now? Probably not. But I love that that's what I did at the time. I kind of worked with the stuff that I had. Now here's another super fun one. So we went parasailing off of the back of a boat and we got to go up together, which was extra cool. So if you have the opportunity to do this, neatest thing ever. And we both got strapped onto the parachute together. They lift you straight up from the boat, and then you come right back down and you land on the boat. So there was like nothing hard about it at all. And we passed our camera to some other people that were on the boat. They did the same when it was their turn to go. And we got to have these pictures. And like, what would you ever do with a teeny, teeny, tiny picture like that? You'd never scrapbook it because it doesn't mean anything when you can't even see you in it. But by incorporating these all together in the same page like this, it helped me to illustrate that story. And you can see I was printing titles on my computer and just printing it out, cutting it out to look like a puffy cloud. I know, it's so silly and fun. My little wavy borders. But, you know, I look at that. Is it cheesy? Sure. But do I do cheesy stuff all the time still? Yeah. I just have nicer products now to do it with. Here, just like showing off some of the stuff using pool paper, which I laugh at because pool paper now and ocean paper are so different. Going to the pineapple place. You got to get those silly pictures in there. You know, you're posing in front of all kinds of crazy things. And trying to work some of my story in. So you'll see me trying in different ways to kind of get my story onto the pages as well. This one was ultra fun. I had writing paper. So it was just notebook paper, like a stationery. I had stationery that had a little Hawaiian flower border around it. So I've cut the little Hawaiian flowers out. This is Alice's earliest days of fussy cutting, guys. I know. I love that page. Thank you. Yeah, so my earliest days of fussy cutting, I printed my title and cut it out and added it to the page. But I was able to showcase some of the silly little moments from our trip. Here we went to the Uss Arizona Memorial. I've got the brochures and pamphlets in here. This page, we went on to the Bowfin submarine that was there. I was fascinated by the submarine. And so I had a bunch of photos, and I was able to find this cool page protector that let me fold this out so that I could include my little fold out that I built with all of the pictures. And yeah, I've decorated with random fish images, whatever, you know. I look back at this and I have nothing but love for all of the elements, because these pages have helped me become the scrapbooker that I am now. So I don't look back with regret at these pages. I look back with so much love. And here we go, some more with the Mighty Mo. So we did the Arizona, the Bowfin, and the Missouri to go and see where they signed the peace agreement, which is amazing. So that was Hawaii of 1999. And then we went back to Hawaii. But over the years, I've gone back and I've used different pictures in different ways when I'm thinking about other stories that I want to include about Hawaii. Or this one here, I've got the little tabs out here. I've just done like sticky note tabs. I want to get some more little dividers, but I don't have them yet. So the sticky notes work for now. But with this page here, it's one of those floral pages. It has like little flowers on the background paper. And I had this nice little border that I had bought at some time actually in Hawaii. And so I've got that all put together. But these pictures are some of my favorite ones from that trip. And so on this page, I tell a story that's about that trip, but it's not necessarily of the time of that trip. It kind of appreciates that trip. And those can be really hard to file because it's like, do I put it where these photos go because they're from that first trip, or does it go into something more current, like when I'm telling the story? In this case, I've decided to kind of keep it together because, you know, I think that it works fine. But I just wanted to read this part to you. It says, Jonas and I have returned to Hawaii several times, and every time we love it more. For years, we've talked and dreamed of having a holiday place in Hawaii. We love island life and would love to spend more time on the beaches and in the ocean. We've even looked at real estate. I think we've decided it's the next dream we'd like to fulfill. Let's make a dream come true. So this could come into a story of us, but I loved that I was able to bring these pieces like of our first trip and how it goes back to where that dream kind of originated. So yeah, does it fit perfectly well with that? Maybe not. And of course, it's a load layout, so that's in here too. Next up, I have a trip from Hawaii of 2015. That is not the next trip. The other one's, good question. Good question, actually. I don't actually know which book those are in, but we took our kids to Hawaii in between. Now, this was our first trip to Maui, and that was a whole new adventure. So we'd been to Oahu a couple of times, and then we went to Maui, and you'll see that this is a Ferris Bueller quote on here, but I think it really fit. Like, life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. Now, you'll notice this paper here in the background of this. It's bright. It kind of has a little bit of a tropical feel. It's actually alcohol ink stripped onto just regular paper. And you can see like the fun, cool effects that that's made. Orchard Girl says, I put throwback pages in my albums all the time. Yay! Yeah, and I think that it's so fun to kind of look back and see how that trip has really affected, you know, the way you think about things. Because I think there's a lot of learning sometimes, or a lot of emotion that kind of comes out of a trip when we look back on it. Yeah, and so this one kind of became a story about like escaping to Maui, I should say, escape to Maui. And of course we took like one of those pictures in the sand, and then what do you do with them? A little bit of a title page is a perfect option. But I'll just read the beginning of this. I swear, I'm not the spontaneous one. That's Jonas, not me. I like to plan, especially for holidays. And this one was different. It was Tuesday, April 14th. Our 18-year anniversary was coming up on Friday. We don't make a big deal out of anniversaries and birthdays. I had an idea. It was a crazy idea. We should go on a holiday for our anniversary. Sure, it's on Friday. Sure, I'm in the middle of teaching an online class. And sure, I have a scrapbook club on Thursday night. But sure, let's do it. You'll notice the repetition of the sure. I texted Jonas, so do you have stuff to do this weekend? He's like, why? What do you have planned? And I went home and we booked the trip and we left right away. And it was amazing. So there's more in that story, but I think that it was just really fun to kind of talk about how I stepped outside of my own personality. And so even though it's a travel page, it takes you to a different exploration of yourself. So if you're not looking at pages as a chance to kind of show different sides of your personality, that's something to consider. So my hotel room view on this one, it was beautiful. That was like one of the best trips ever. Enjoying Lilikoi because, like I said, I enjoy many different aspects of Hawaiian culture. One of the things that they have a lot of there is Lilikoi, which is passion fruit. And we had Lilikoi flavored butter, which is maybe one of my favorite things I've ever had in my whole life. Maybe. It definitely makes the list, and it definitely deserved a page. Yeah. So that was fun. The whole putting your personality into this. I call this page Relax with a big question mark because the last thing I want to do when I go on my trip is relax. Yes, I want to relax, but I'm like, okay, so we sat on the beach for 5 minutes. Do we get to go in the water now? Okay, we've been in the water for a while. Do we get to sit on the beach now? Now what? What's next? Are we going to a different beach? So, I can't help it. I love it so much. I just want to do all of the things. And I think part of that is not having enough time that I feel like I can just take it slow. So I feel like I need to cram it all in. So more from our trip to Maui. This was fun. I used one of those spray mists on this wood veneer piece. If you've never put spray mist or other kind of colorants onto a wood veneer, they can be so beautiful. Let me take this page up and show you just what a lovely effect that made. Can you see the shine on that octopus? Oh my gosh, he looks so beautiful with that little bit of shine on there. And the page is pretty neutral. That's a pretty neutral page for me. So now we're going to Hawaii 2017, right? Another trip. And we did different activities, right? We did the Haleakala crater at sunset, not sunrise, because who wants to be up that early? You got to get up really early. You have to book a spot. A lot of extra planning steps. And so going up for sunset, highly recommended. And then you know how clear your day is too. You're not just kind of like hoping that you're going to have a clear morning. Not just another sunset in paradise. So this goes back to something that my husband said, right? He's like, why do you always want to stop and look at the sunset when you're here? Why don't you do that at home? We don't usually have like as much open space where we are right now. Like we have too many trees, so we don't have that total view of the sunset. But when you're on holiday, it's taking every single moment and just, finding the beauty in those situations. So I really wanted to kind of say, yeah, I know we actually take the time here to stop and look at the sunsets. So it's not just another sunset. This was super fun. So, when you have a package of die cuts and you have a lot of die cuts in that package, I used all of the die cuts to kind of create my own little support, my layer for this page. And I thought that was really fun because it's all just die cuts. The island getaway. Yeah, living each day as it comes. We actually didn't have any kind of plans for this whole trip. Didn't make any plans. This is Hawaii 2019. No plans. Just kind of like, what are we going to do this morning? And that was a totally different style of trip for us. And it was really good. I had a little bit more time, so I didn't feel like crammed. Plus, we'd been there before, so I get to explore different areas. I'll tell you, that's one thing that I have enjoyed is going back to the same area so I can see different things and experience different things and feel like I have a little more time. Okay, this is really fun because this is paper that people in general, a lot of scrapbookers struggle with. Really photorealistic papers that have a lot of photos that have a lot of detail already on the background, right? And sometimes we look at those and we're like, what are we going to do with those papers? I feel like I want to use every sense I have all the time when I'm on holiday. I understand about your sunsets things. So with this photorealistic paper, it's actually a picture of the road to Hana. And I had bought this lovely little die cut. There is a shop. There is a fabulous little scrapbook shop in Hawaii on Maui. And I picked up a bunch of things there. And I did a little tour, but the audio was just so bad. We couldn't even release it. The audio was just terrible. I should have voiced it over. If I had the video still, I would voice it over now because it was just so sad. But the shop is beautiful and amazing. And the lady was so sweet there. And and if you look up Scrapbook Store Maui, you'll find it. Like it's not that big of a place. And it was definitely worth the trip to get things that were really themed for there. And you can order from her online. So now I'm dying to think of what the shop was called. Dying to think what that shop was called. Scrapbook Store on Maui. Island Papery. So islandpapery.com, and it's Paperie. So islandpapery.com. Super sweet, wonderful, and you can order from them online. So just give them a little shout out because they were fantastic. And so I got a lot of the photorealistic papers from there and die cuts and things. And so that made my albums really come to life when I came home. But you'll notice I took this paper, I've used it to kind of map my photo here. I've used a piece of it to embellish over here. Now, if I didn't put these two pages side by side, either one would still stand alone. But they were both the road to Hana, so even though I'm telling slightly different stories, they're similar but different, on these two pages, I've used some of the same techniques. So I've done a watercolor wash on my background for my journaling. I've done a watercolor wash with different colors over here to kind of set my photos and just talk about the drive and the trip and fun little car that we rented. Like, this photo feels iconic to me. I just love it so much. Right? On the rocky beach with the car, with my big old sun hat. I just love it. So it makes it really fun to, have a couple of photos that you just really love from a trip. Take the time to have a couple pictures that you love. And that way when the rest of them are kind of like, okay, it's wonderful. I had just watched a movie with Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt. And it was like them in Europe or something, and they're driving around in the countryside. I can't remember the name of this show, but I really felt like that when we were driving around on this place, like looking over the ocean. It felt so fabulous. Really fun, decorative background papers, right? Don't feel bad about covering them up. Go ahead and cover up those decorative papers. Go ahead and cover up part of one of these really photorealistic papers. It's okay. It's your scrapbook. It's about, having your photos and telling your stories. Hello, Judy. Thanks for joining us. This one here, you can see, like, I've just taken a strip and covered part of it. So I've kept the majority of the waterfall. It's, it's maybe one that I saw on the trip. I don't even know. But I got to go and swim in a waterfall. The idea is so much better than the actual experience, let me tell you. So I'm like, take my picture. I need to have proof of this. The water was so cold. As a Canadian girl, I'm telling you, that water was cold. But I went and I did it, and I have a picture to prove it. Backing cut files. Oh my gosh, the beautiful cut files that you can get that go with holidays and trips right now. And look at how many fun different patterns I got to include on this page because I used them to back a cut file. If you love all your patterns and you're like, I just want to use them all, backing a cut file can be a really great way to get more of those fun patterns onto your page. This one here is another one of those decorative papers, like photorealistic. They wrote aloha. They've got the little flowers on the beach, and then it has like the water. That's all part of the paper. What did I do? I added my photo. I added my everyday. I put all of my days, and then I added a few words. I kind of wish I added the words differently, honestly, but it's done. But man, that water, unreal. We went whale watching, and I painted that. I did that. It was like watercolor. I looked at a picture of a fluke tail. That's a trick that I do a lot when I want to try to do a little bit of artwork, is I look at a picture of one, and I'm not talking about, okay, so I'm not talking about like an actual picture. Look at a drawing that somebody has drawn, because they know kind of what parts need to be light, what parts need to be dark. Is this perfect? No, but it's okay. It's pretty nice. I'm pretty happy with it. I think my water looks pretty great too. And this was my actual joy, right? I was so excited, like, it's a whale. Another one of those really fun, busy backgrounds that can be a little bit hard to use. But I've got these pictures of the sea turtle. These ones were really fun because we didn't actually get in the water to see these sea turtles. My husband put the GoPro on a stick so that we could be away from the turtles and still kind of see them up close. So that was super fun. You can see here, like, we're way up on this bank, and he just reached it way down into the water so that we didn't disturb them and they could just do their own thing. But you see, it's something as simple as drawing little sketchy lines to contain your journaling can just make it feel so much more connected. More fun background paper, just really working with the paper that you have. This one, using the little fun die cuts that I picked up. You can see I've got a little bit of decorative, not decorative edge scissors. They're like the little cuts, making that like the little grass effect on there. That fun? A little bit of swoosh of watercolor in the background. I think that's like one of the best techniques I've ever picked up. Is most effective, easiest to do to kind of add that little bit of color to a white background. Just a little swoosh of color across the back. So fun. This paper here, it has this giant turtle on it. I went and I printed my photo, and then I'm like, I don't want to like not see part of the turtle. So I've actually cut out his little arm with an X-Acto knife so that I could overlap it over top of my photo. And then I have a nice arrow showing that this little blob right there, that's a turtle. Like, so this kind of helps you to tell you what the page is about. So it really helps when you have something that can be like, yeah, this is my turtle page. That's why I'm so excited in this picture. And that's the turtle. But, this is what I was seeing, right? More of this photo decorative paper, right? Like the photorealistic. And I've got my words down here. They don't show up as good as they could, but I tried to pick an area that had enough contrast so I could get my journaling in there. It's okay. Lots of sparkly and shiny, which I thought was a good good thing to use with sunsets, actually. This is us looking at election results while we're in Hawaii. We voted before we left. That was Canadian election stuff, or Alberta, provincial election stuff. And celebrating our anniversary. Now, what I would like to do is go back and use those other pictures from the Lilikoi and use this together, because the two together would be great, because this is us in the same place, right? That became the go-to place. A little bit of fun background paper, more background papers. Like when you get paper that is this pretty already done for you, yeah, it's perfect. Just perfect. Using a grid to kind of tell a storyline, right? To kind of go across a storyline. I think that's really fun. It's almost like creating your own little cartoon strip. This one, oh, that was like a thing I was going to show. I think you guys get to see these now, and I had actually pulled them out for Fun Techniques Day when we did the Fun Technique, so I'm glad that you got to see some of the fun things. So I created this fun pinwheel effect. The paper was already the multicolored like this. I just cut along the strips and folded and added a little extra color to create these little dimensions on here for the Nakalele blowhole. There's a blowhole. It was so fun to see. Pineapple tasting. That one actually had the funniest story. We thought we were going to a pineapple tasting, and it was actually it wasn't pineapple. It was a distillery. So then it was like a booze tasting thing, which my husband doesn't drink at all. So he's like, here, can she have mine? And I totally couldn't even have it. So he was like super disappointed that he couldn't. And like, seriously, they didn't even give you a thimble of this stuff. Like, it was so sad. Vicky says, that's something that I can't do. Many members of my family were talented artists, but I have to depend on stencils to get anything that looks realistic. You did a great job on your whale, Alice. Thank you. I don't do a ton of my own artwork like that, but yeah, looking at a drawing of how somebody else drew it, then is it ever going to look the same? No, but nobody's going to compare it. So, and if this had gone badly, so let's just go back there for a second. If this had gone badly and this whale looked nothing like a whale, whatever, it's a piece of paper I'd have thrown in the garbage. Right? Like, if it would have sucked, I just would have got rid of it. This is really fun. Just using some more of that photorealistic paper. My sunset picture doesn't look nearly as pretty as their sunset picture, but when I put this here, I'm like, look, this is what we saw. This is what we saw. This is what my camera sees, right? Like, it's not doing it justice. But having this here conveys the feeling that I was feeling by having that. So photorealistic papers, like I said before when I was talking about the postcards are great for showing you like what that really is. And then your pictures are just dark or something. This is kind of that same effect, right? Yeah. Crazy photos. That's a thing. I love it. The fun paper. Yeah. This one I thought was really fun. I took a little shark bite out of my paper. We talked about how we had gone snorkeling on this beach the day before they closed it because they had seen sharks in the area. And I was like, oh, we were just there. My husband's like, that's not the beach. I'm like, yep, it is. And so we drove back there the next day to see if it was actually the one that we had been at. And yeah, it totally was. It was the same beach. So shark sighted, the area was closed. Apparently they were nursing their babies in that area. So that's why they kind of wanted to make sure that was closed. But I was able to pull like lots of little die cuts and fun things to create like this little strip along here. And I thought that was really fun. Plus my little shark bite. I just filled in some like white paper behind the corner. I'll show you that really quick because I didn't actually put the whole paper on white. So you can see I just covered that corner with a little scrap that I had on my desk. And that kind of filled that in. But I also used some stamps that I had and, tried to include a few of the little icons. I've got some cute little rows of sequins on there. And yeah, I just talk about how a woman at our pool was telling us about, tiger sharks. There were tiger sharks in the area. So yeah, got to scrapbook some of your favorite food from a holiday. We saw the lilikoi butter. We saw pie. There was pie. We talked about pineapple. Ooh, yeah, this fish thing, this akule plate. No thanks. That was not a me thing. That was, my husband was like, fish? That's cool. Actually, so here's the whole story with this akule plate. It was fried akule plate. And I'm like, what's that? And now you can just like look it up on your phone, like akule. And it's like a fish. And so my husband's like, oh, there's like a place up here that just has fish. And like, I think like side of the road stands are like super awesome way to get like this real taste of where you are. So I was excited, but not about fish. It's just not my thing. But Fat Daddies, let me tell you, I was excited about that. You give me Southern barbecue food anytime, I'm in. This one here, fun die cut, like a cut file page. But here's the great thing about this cut file. I got this one from Treasured Memories. They included all the little pieces pre-cut for you to cut back your own cut file. And then in the wave, I added like these little gems that are all sparkly and shiny into the wave. So I thought that was really fun. So make sure you play with your cut files when you use them. And then just like scrapbooking on the airplane, going home from the trip, but doing your scrapbooking. So yeah, hopefully this was like inspiring. I think some of the tips for using some of these photorealistic paper, because I think they kind of like, they're so pretty, they end up in our stash, and then we're like, uh-oh, now what do you do with them? Even like the things like the turtle, that little trick of cutting out part of it so part of your photo can work underneath it so that you're working a little bit with that background paper. That can be such a good tip. So those are some of my Hawaiian pages. We have a few minutes. Do you guys want to see a little bit from my trip to India? So I have a few pages in here from my trip to India, and it was amazing actually. So I've got the first page at this current time in this book, and I go through and I add pictures as I remember different stories. I'll remember a story and I'm like, I know I haven't scrapbooked that about our trip to India. This is one that I think is always going to be growing because I remember different things. I'll talk to my cousin. We'll have this little shared memory. But I have a couple of fun things to show you. Jacqueline says yes, she wants to see it. So there's a couple of fun ones in here. So I kind of did like a top 10 list, which, like it had these little strips or whatever. I'm looking at it now and I don't like the fact that I didn't line them up, but at the time I wanted everything to be a little crooked. So, it's where I was at the time. 10 surprising things about India. And, it was just like the traffic was insane and so noisy because they beep all the time. I really enjoyed the food. Didn't expect that. I thought I was going to be like eating rice the whole trip. There was so much garbage everywhere. It was heartbreaking to see how much garbage was everywhere. We saw families of 5 on one motorcycle. It was just bizarre. There were cows roaming around in the city. There were people everywhere that I looked. Just everywhere. I don't know if I have a single picture, and I took like 1,700 photos or something in the 2 weeks that we were there. Something like that. Maybe it was more. Like, it was so many pictures. And I don't know if I have a picture that doesn't have a person in it. Debbie says, of course we want to see all the books. Joyce says that's how she feels about her trip to Israel. Yeah, like, it's just not quite ever done. I think that's what you're referring to. It's just not ever done. Like, there's always something else. And there were people everywhere. Like the contrast between the slums and the splendor, and sometimes like both were side by side, is shocking. The toilets were surprising, but really easy to use. I was a fan. That was a surprise. Everyone seemed to have a cell phone. Like everybody seemed to have a cell phone, which was so funny because we think of them kind of as an expensive thing here. There was beauty everywhere. I found something to fall in love with every place that we went. This picture here, my tour guide helped me frame this. He took us back into this one part, and the way that this little cove was, this little alcove had this beautiful little archway, and you frame your picture through that archway. And you know, it's a great thing about having a tour guide. Like, he actually met us there, and he's like, "Oh, I'll give you a tour." He spoke really good English, so I'm like, "How much does he want?" Yeah, let's do it. So, and we found out so many more things because of him that we wouldn't have experienced on our own. Yeah, the celebrity. This is funny. Like, I used all these little strips of paper. I cut all these little triangles with all these paper. I was so in love with this page when I made it. Like, so much fun. But I just want to show you. It was like the funniest experience when these girls asked if they could get their picture with us at the Taj Mahal. And when we stood there, they grabbed our hands and held our hands, and we were so shocked by that. But here's our picture with them like holding our hands, and at first we were so startled, but it was like super sweet. And yeah, just different things. So I told top 3 celebrity type moments. One, receiving the royal treatment when we went shopping in Chennai, and our purchases. Like, they wouldn't let us hold any of our stuff that we wanted to buy. They just had a person that would take it away, and we didn't see it until we got to the till at the end. Being stalked at the Red Fort in Delhi, we were a little bit worried about this one, and then we actually took our stalkers' photos, and they were like embarrassed, and they stopped following us then. And then everywhere we went, people wanted to have their photo taken with us. And yeah, you'll see that girl had grabbed our hands. It was so weird. We learned different things as we went. What year was India? 2010, I think. This is bad because it should say in my book, but I don't know that it does. But I think it was 2010. I think. That's bad. My uncle was working there, so that's what led to this trip. My uncle was working there. My aunt had gone over with him. And then my cousin and I, like their daughter, we went over to go and see and tour around a bit. And actually it worked perfect because the job he was on, it was oil drilling. He was a consultant for them. They were moving the rig in between, so they didn't need him when they moved the rig. So he actually got to come with us and do all the touring, and that was extra fun. So we actually had the time together. Yeah, a motorcycle built for 5. And I felt that this paper, like, it kind of gave me like the right vibe for the place and stuff, with the different patterns and styles that we saw there. But yeah, taking a picture with 5 people on a motorcycle, you don't see that here. I saw 4 adult men riding on the same motorcycle. Like, just different fun things. And you know, I also wanted to kind of tell stories that showed our state of mind as we were on the trip. And so that's what this one is here. I've got like a terrified in India, but we got really freaked out. We saw a whole bunch of people. It looked like a riot in the street, actually. And I was a little bit concerned, like locking my doors, thinking, oh my gosh, like I was really concerned and worried. And then, as you know, so here was my thoughts: bombings, muggings, abductions, explosions, and then it turned out to be a funeral. I felt like such an idiot, like, seriously. And it wasn't, you know, intimidating, but it was intimidating, so it was both. Yeah, I was worried about the potential of crime before we went there, and both my cousin and I had both seen that movie Taken with Liam Neeson. Don't ever watch that before you go on a trip. Like, don't ever, just don't ever watch that, is my thought now. So yeah, we heard like these little small explosions. It was all part of this funeral procession. And so I felt like a really judgmental person, but that really helped me to grow as I experienced a different culture. So I look at the person that came back from India and the person that went to India in two different lights. But I think by sharing that in my pages, it really helps me to put a name on that and to say, hey, like, I had stuff to learn. Hungry. So I've got this cow, and he was literally eating a paper bag. So I made my little paper bag and put some little raffia in the bag. And yeah, I just said, as an Alberta girl, I'm not used to seeing cows roaming around a city. Coming from a place famous for our beef, I know that paper bags and other trash are not normally on the menu for a cow. And although I expected to see hungry people in India, I was startled to see the animals eating trash. Like, it just hit me in a way because, and this cow looked really healthy actually, so it must be getting something good. But in a country that doesn't eat the beef, it was just, it was bizarre. Just the way it messes with your thinking. I painted this. I painted this inspired by this photo that I took. And I just loved the people following the path, like following the trail, and the animals in the field. And yeah, so I used this photo to inspire my painting. I'm not going to end up on the wall of some museum, but for me, this felt like a really fun experience to kind of look at that. Oh, and this is one of my favorite techniques I used to do. All of the words that kind of like summarized what I was feeling. So yeah, that was a thing. And just inspired by India. This was the shopping experience where we felt like celebrities. This is more of it. They dressed up me and my uncle, which was like kind of awkward. It's like, shouldn't you dress up my aunt? But yeah, it was so cool. Like, we had an amazing shopping trip. It was very confusing at the end because we got to the till, and I'm like, so do you take debit card, right? I'm asking if they take debit, and they're like, and I'm like, do you take debit card? Because like they're kind of like trying to take it for me, but then they're like shaking their head no, and like I didn't even know that meant yes. Like, I didn't know. It's all the things I didn't know, right? I had so much to learn. Orchard Girl says, I'm going to have to go through this session again. Okay, I have to show you, like, this. Okay, so I have to show you this. So this page is called Wedding Crashers because when we arrived, at our hotel, we heard this noise and, like, music and stuff, and we asked our driver what was going on, and he took us into this wedding. We didn't realize it was a wedding. I didn't realize what was happening until it had happened. And so we accidentally crashed a wedding in India. And it was like the coolest thing to see, like seeing the couple up on the stage, seeing the decorations that they had all carved out of like melons and stuff like that. It was so beautiful. But as we were going, he took these little baggies for us, and they were like, it's like this little yellow bag, and it had like kind of like a mint and leaves and stuff that they would chew on. It didn't have like a great value, but they had these things, and it was printed with people's names. So thank you to these people for having us crash their wedding. I kind of feel terrible, but I really didn't know what was happening at the time. But I wanted to include this bag, and that's like a big piece of memorabilia. Like, how do you include a bag in your scrapbook? So I actually cut the bag in half, and I have applied it to a piece of paper. So I kind of, instead of having the 2-layered bag, I have just the front layer of the bag, and I've attached that to paper, and then I've made sure I've used like buffered paper in here. Like, am I worried about the longevity? Not really. But then I've just tucked the little the little piece. So it kind of is still like a bag, and I could probably put something in there just from the way I've attached it, but I thought that was pretty cool. So I thought that was a fun one. More fun things. My Defying Gravity. So you can see that my letters are falling down off my page because this giant rock is perched on the top of this ledge, and like it looks so unreal. So there we're pretending that we're going to push it down, and here we're holding it up, and we're holding it up. I don't know. It was funny, but I thought that the way I did the title was super fun and playful. Meeting some of the family of our driver, that was really cool. His auntie actually made us a meal, and I was never more honored in my life to have a meal made for me than this meal that we had. Like, this is a picture of her grinding the lentils by the back door. She's like grinding it on her stone, the lentils that went into the little fried kind of like biscuits or something that she made. Like, they weren't biscuits, they were more heavy, almost like a fritter, like little fried lentil fritters that she made for us. And they were amazing. They served our meal on a banana leaf, like an actual banana leaf. And like, we ate traditional, and it was just like, honestly, the sweetest thing we'd ever had done. And I just wanted to really like try to remember this. And it was so cute because as things were there, all the neighborhood kids, all of them came over, and they were all in the backyard because they all wanted to look at us and laugh at us. But they were just so cute. Like, oh my goodness. So, super fun. A surprise around every corner. I have to show you this one too, actually. We went to this restaurant, and the restaurant is like breathtakingly beautiful. It looked like the swankiest restaurant I've been to, like in Edmonton or anywhere else, right? It was gorgeous inside. But when we were parking the car to go into this restaurant, this is what we saw behind the restaurant. And I laughed so hard at all of the dishes that are washed and laying out drying in the sun, because that's just not what you do here. And, you know, I just had to accept, like, we're in a different place. We're not here. And yeah, it was really, really interesting. My cousin ate the hot pepper. I don't know what she was thinking. She was dumb because it was ridiculously hot. This was a fun one. We listened with a different driver that we had when we went up north. We were up in like Assam. We listened to the CD for 5 hours one day and 8 hours the next. It was a lot. The driver just played the same CD, and it would just start again and start again and start again. And it was the repeating CD. So I cut this in the background with my Cricut machine, and back when I had one, and I just cut the whole background out, and then I put the little centers of the D's back in. But I thought it was a really fun way to kind of show that repetition of the CD. Got the little music note on here, and something that we saw, like all the people climbed all over these little vehicles. It was crazy. Another moment that freaked me out, looking at my cousin, and all of a sudden I see right behind her, there's a guy hanging back there washing the window. Yep. The Taj Mahal, reading stories, just all of the amazing things that we saw when we were there, all the different companies and logos and kinds of food, and it was amazing. It was an amazing trip. Oh, and I used this marble paper for this Taj Mahal. Best ever. So that was really, really fun. Thank you for joining me for this walk down memory lane. That's totally what this was. But hopefully, as you saw, like some of the way that I approach the storytelling, the way I approach using the supplies, the way I've worked in some of the memorabilia from the trip, that you saw some of those things and you're like, hey, that looked fun or that was inspiring. Yeah, and that you see something that, you know, just helps you have a little bit more fun, incorporate some of your memories and your stories and like the experiences into your pages as you're telling them. It's so tough when we come home from a trip. We're like, oh, that was fun. That was great. But really, we have so much more to say about our trips. And hopefully, these pages help you see that. Like the stories that I shared with you are the stories that I've actually put into these pages. Thank you, Alice. I love the session. Well, thank you so much. And I will be back tomorrow with something completely different. And later on this week, we will be having a guest. So lots of fun things happening this week. We're meeting every day at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Marcia says, I love it when you go through your scrapbooks. Thank you. Oh, you're thank you. I'm always like, is this too self-indulgent? Maybe, but I think seeing how other people tackle their stories is really valuable. Like I would sit through anybody showing them their books. So hopefully that's fun for you too. And thank you for saying that. Jacqueline says this made me recall stories for some of my trips. Yeah, if you have like a quick idea, like that something you saw, quickly just write down the idea of it so that you can go and make that page, even if it's not today or tomorrow, that you can make it for coming up. So thank you so much. I will be back tomorrow, and hopefully this will make your day a little happier at home. If you're in our Scrap Happy membership, don't forget today at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, we have our happy hour. So hopefully I'll see our Scrap Happy members then. Bye, everyone.